Welcome back to Hypothetically Sound. Here with Randy and Alec, bringing you guys another episode of the Theories series. And this time, we're going to be talking about simulation. Let's start off by giving you guys a quote from the Lord, the Savior himself, Elon Musk. He says in an interview once that he had, if you assume at any rate of improvement games, the video games that we play, will eventually be indistinguishable from reality. What do you guys think about that?
No, I think it's
Oh,
facts.
yeah, I 100% think that eventually we will get to the point where like Ready Player One
Kind of
is a pretty realistic thing, except we'll be more attached to it. You know what I'm saying?
what do you mean attached to it?
Okay, so I think that it will get to the point because right now with video games you can make money on it from competing or just like
Mhm.
online just anything, right? And it
Yeah.
could get to the point where we develop a virtual world that companies will use to do their like meetings and stuff, and that will evolve into the fact that like no one will ever need to leave their house again. They just throw on the fucking headset or whatever, and boom, they're in a virtual world, virtual reality that's also like a game. I guess like it can double as a game or whatever,
Okay. So yeah,
or it'll
kind of
start off as like a games thing and then it evolves into an everyday.
just where we are all the time.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think movies and TV shows and pop culture like gearing us to be ready for. You have movies and shows like Sword Art Online, Ready Player One, different movies like that kind of gear society to accept being trapped, not being trapped in virtual reality full time, controlling even to the point of the. I can't remember what the movie's called, but there's one where you control humans. You put on a virtual headset,
yeah, that
and
was
you
Ready Player One, wasn't it?
no,
No,
it's
no.
another one where they take prisoners and they're in shooters, and
Mm.
people like are used as sex dolls. Like, hey, you humans like get paid to become NPCs essentially that real other humans control through virtual reality. And so I
Yeah.
think these pop culture things are kind of teaching us to be ready for it when it happens. I don't think we're
Hmm.
far off. I think technology at some point pretty soon is going to exponentially grow at a rate unforeseen. And that's one of the aspects that get popular. People. But yeah, I want to be virtual reality or control something.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I know I would. I mean, your options are kind of limitless. Your horizon expands in terms of the things that you can do, especially if it's, someone stronger than your regular
Especially
person or whatever the case may be.
especially if your life isn't going the way you want it. Like people already escape into video games and art to escape their own reality. So imagine
Mhm.
something so immersive that you can create a whole new persona and it's real enough to you that it overtakes you. Your virtual reality persona becomes you.
yeah.
That's where
I
you
mean,
live life, and everything outside of it's fake.
yeah, that quite literally already happens, and we're not even like super in depth. Like when you play games, 99% of the time, you still have your room around you can look at. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah,
And
but
like
you're
these people are absorbed so
still
much into their
lost.
screen. Yeah. So if you give
Mhm.
it an option to where we're inside the game,
Mhm.
like addiction's too strong. Like humans are addictive creatures, and that 100%.
2 weeks later, "Alec, you still have the vibe on, take it off."
Like look at GTA 5 RP boom. Like
Mm.
that's been one of the most popular things on Twitch for like 3 years now, and it's people watching like these people play characters for 13 hours a day, and you can't tell me these people who are playing character like you see all the time, like Anthony Z and Spaceboy and stuff are constantly tweeting out. I went to the store, or I'm talking to my girlfriend, and I bring up an RP term from GTA. What is my life like? Yeah, that's what's gonna happen to people. Like they get so in depth into their characters that they start
Absorb,
bringing
yeah.
out to what they do in real
Real world.
life.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question for you then, right?
Alright.
Do you think because that happens, and because we will get to a point where video games will be indistinguishable from reality, do you think that that in any way confirms or rather gives credible um, evidence that we are a simulation
Okay, so that's
or
weird, right?
in a simulation?
Okay, yeah, so that's weird because I think when we get to that point, people see it's okay, hold on, sorry. When we get to that point, like it probably will because I can't imagine it now, to be honest, being immersed into like a game or another world like that uh right now. But if we get to that point and we can't distinguish what's fake and reality, I guess the logic there just shows that like if we think the fake stuff is real, how do we know that the real stuff is not fake? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, so I guess technically yes. I think it'll bring up more questions on it, but as of like right now, since I can't really imagine it, also no. I'm so confusing.
It
I'm
may
sorry.
no, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, you really don't know how it's gonna feel until your brain is presented with that environment.
Yeah, and
Because
So it kind of makes sense.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say because like if let's the technology comes out tomorrow, it's readily available for everyone to get it really easily. We all get it, and then
Hmm.
5 years down the road, it comes down to that way. And when we look back at this, 100%, I'm gonna be like, yeah. How do we know that this wasn't also like? How do we know this was real? Like, how do we know we weren't already in the game? Right? Like, what if we just got the new thing?
What if we're now just in the game inside the game, and it's
Yeah.
gameception,
I mean, that's possible too. That they again already have that as well. Like there's Easter eggs and stuff in games where you play more games. Like
right?
like if we're not already in a simulation, say life as we know it is in a simulation. I do think it's possible to at one point to get to a place with virtual reality that we suck people into the simulation. Like one of my favorite
Mhm.
shows is Agents of
Remember this
Shield.
part that you're talking about. I got
Yeah,
something later that I'm gonna bring up.
my favorite show, Agent of Shield, the Marvel show. One of their seasons, they go into what they call the framework, which is it's a
Mm.
virtual reality system that they're put into the brains put into it, and uh, they live a life there, and stuff happens, and they end up escaping it. But when they come back to reality, they remember the life they lived in the virtual reality, and now they're in the real, like what they're perceiving to be the real world as two different lives. Like which one is real? And I think that's what eventually will happen. You'll end up getting sucked into virtual reality, and you'll start going in there and like how easy is it for us to sit down in a game we like, put 12, 13 hours in, like sitting, and we know we're around because we're drinking water, we go to the bathroom and whatnot. But in, let's just say, in this virtual reality sense, in the future, those things don't matter, and you can keep playing. And so you're going 10 to 20 days in a game, and then you come out and you're like, eventually at some point, you're not going to know if the game is real or you're real. And so I
Mhm.
think that'll end up, I think it'll end up crashing society as a whole.
You think so? You think it would cause everything to just kinda
Because it'll take one person to, or a group of people to like hook, like in Sword Art Online, the group of people who go around killing, and then they come out of the game and they're like, shit, I remember that, I liked it. Why can't I do it now? That was real life.
mm,
This isn't real life. Like that's what it
mhm,
comes is like your brain's gonna convince itself that whatever one you
moral
more like more,
breakdown?
yeah, whatever one you like more is the reality. And if you're in the reality and you don't like it, that's the game.
True, true, true. That's a good point. Would the human mind be able to handle having that much freedom?
I
That's
think
another one of those things.
it's either we crash or we evolve.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, it's a
It,
50-50 coin flip
yeah,
scenario.
I think it's one or the other. I think it's either we become too dependent on it and we evolve into it,
Hmm.
or we become too dependent on it and we don't use it as like an evolution thing and we still try to maintain regular life with it, and then we just society crashes because of that,
Yeah,
because
and you
people
turn
are
in trying to make it work or make it acceptable.
yeah.
Like, isn't that the goal with virtual reality for like government or college purposes? Is you're able to go into this virtual reality, spend and learn something at twice the rate in virtual reality than you would in real life because you can do it
Right.
over and over again.
Or put
And
yourself in the scenario of
mhm.
actually applying whatever knowledge it is that you're learning or whatever the case may be.
But yeah, in that sense, yeah,
Skill.
it definitely could help push society forward. And like at some point, it's going to become a reality. Like I said, like we've seen too many examples of pop culture leading to actual innovation. And
Mm,
so we've seen it in movies, we've seen it in TV shows. It's going to happen eventually in reality because someone watches it and is like, yeah, I want to do it. I want to make that. So yeah, eventually the government will have something where that's how they train the soldiers. No longer you have to worry about soldiers being hurt in hand-to-hand combat when they can just go do that scenario like the Matrix.
mhm. Red pill, blue pill. Um, Here's something for you. Just because we perceive the world as real and materials being real doesn't necessarily mean so. There's been quite a bit of findings in quantum physics that state otherwise or you know, shed some light that would appear that none of those things actually exist. Do you think that those are signs that we could be in a simulation? Or do you think it's we just don't know what material really is?
You have an example of material they found out to be to exist?
Matter itself.
Matter? Oh, okay. It's like
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's
I, I'm gonna keep it a buck in general, man. I think the situation that Earth is in and humans are in is really fucking suspect on that aspect, right? Like how we were on the perfect planet for life. We manage all this like random stuff. If you look at
A lot
like
of
the
variables that happen to be just
just
perfect.
perfect, yeah, right. And like I'm not saying that these other planets are completely they're inhabitable for us, but like with the theory of evolution, something should have maybe at some point grown on these planets, right? To
Mhm,
live.
mhm.
Um so like with the matter thing, i- it's weird because if like our science can't explain it, instantly go to the unknown of like what the fuck is it?
Mhm. Such an easy way to just con a lot of reasoning of things
Yeah.
behind not knowing, like, by saying matter is not technically real or our physical what is a better way to say it? Um, that our yeah, I guess our physical plane or physical existence is not real, can be coined on not knowing,
Mhm.
therefore it's a simulation, right? You could use it as that.
But again, with like I said with the Earth stuff, I mean, we look at like the pyramids and stuff. Like with technology back then, there's no way in hell like we can't even make a pyramid, like hardly make a pyramid in the world now with our technology. How the hell did they do it when all they had was rope and like stone tools? You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like, are those just leftover assets from previous experiments, or and they just like tossed them in to add a little flavor to see how we react, or you know what I'm saying?
right,
Oh,
and I mean, those are a lot of the things that quite a lot of other people have brought up in their arguments for, like, simulation theory and things like that is there's so many unexplainable events that have happened throughout time and history that, could definitely be so. We're just another run of humans, like, given a certain amount of tools or a certain amount of things, and we're just being monitored in terms of what we turn into.
No, it's crazy when you think about it. Like just Earth, and like Alex said, Earth in general, like the odds that in the Big Bang we are the perfect fit. Like it leads
Mm.
perfect credence to theory, because like we went from dinosaurs to Neanderthals to Homo sapien. Like it just it's a weird it's a weird evolution. Like a meteor struck the Earth. Okay, cool. Like we think a meteor like we found evidence and stuff, and we think it struck the Earth, but like how if it's a simulation, like it's not hard to. Oh, that's what they did.
Right.
But like it's
Are
just
you trying to say
still
you don't fuck with Pangea?
fuck with Pangea. No, it's just it's it's too coincidental. Like, that's the issue with in our existence. It's too
Hmm.
coincidental for me. Like logically, it just doesn't make sense. If there is a god, like Lil Dicky says, why the fuck did he go from dinosaurs? And it was like, nah, fuck this. I'm gonna cook me up some blondes. Like it doesn't make sense that dinosaurs existed. These creatures that were fucking 80 feet tall, that had sharp teeth and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, like a meteor strikes.
Niggas probably bit him. He's like, they bit him. He said, bad. You know
and
what
all of
you know what I'm saying?
and then all of a sudden, like, these Neanderthals are around now with their big ass fucking skulls. And then all of a sudden, like, they had a baby, and this one baby didn't have a fucking big skull. And nope, here's Homo sapiens. Now there's Homo sapiens. They have good skulls. They can fucking finish the vault. Like the chances of these things
You're
happening.
perfect.
With good skulls.
That's the
God's just looking at him like, God damn, that's the best skull I've seen so far. Like, let's make more of these motherfuckers.
Right.
Less of these
That's the
ones.
one. That's the one.
Reproduce these ones right here.
The template. The template.
Who
Quick, run
fucked
it
up?
back.
Who fucked up? I
And
did. I did. You got a
occasionally
raise.
one comes out with a big ass forehead, and he's like, "Nah, I told you no more of these." Xavier.
Oh.
Like
What
it's just
about
it's
the
so
nose? What happened with that
coincidental.
part?
uh,
The that's a really good point. There's so many weird variables thrown in, and like the whole, ancient civilizations that have tools that they shouldn't have had, or things like that, or it's about the visions that they've had about machinery, or what are they called, hieroglyphs or things like that that have like uh depictions of phones and electronics that shouldn't exist. um I gotta
I'm sorry. Speaking of fucking glitches in the system, your fucking cat licking your face looked like a glitch in the fucking system, dude.
this cat is like licking your face like a dog. You are being blessed.
It didn't look real. Like it looks like the cat from fucking Scary Movie 2. That's what your cat it looks like. It's the cat from Scary Movie 2. For people wondering what we're talking about, watch the YouTube video.
Oh, hold on. So, question for you, Xavier. Do you think like deja vu is a glitch in the system, or would
Yeah,
be a glitch?
yeah, I think that would be another thing that can be accounted for in a matrix, in a simulation scenario. um Definitely would be glitches
She licking your
in the
face and
simulation.
purring.
Hmm. It would be glitches in the simulation, and you're seeing, how something else could have ran, or how an outcome could have been. And that's why you have those moments where you're like, "Oh, deja vu." It's because, yeah, you live in a simulation, but not only that, your brain simulates as well. And you go over those things, or you can essentially live those things without actually living them, because you're always running that simulation in your head as well. So, at least that's kind of how I look at it. It's not saying it's like my end all be all belief, but certainly a take that I have on that.
Here's another question. If we are in a simulation, do you think it's being ran by entity, Or do you think it's like a brain in a jar situation where we're all just kind of like imagining things?
Honestly, like, I think that that would be closer to what I would think would be happening, other than there being a, end all be all figure that's, pressing the button. Um, I think that we're all just one conscious mind, and this is what the true power of the human brain is, and this is what it's created, is essentially a massive simulation that is simulating smaller simulations inside of it, which is, again, kind of what it would be with, video games. And if we ever reach virtual reality levels, that is where we will be, using the computer power that we have at that point. Yeah, I got another question for you guys.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So, do you think it matters knowing if we live in a simulation or not?
No.
No.
You don't think that having a concrete, yes or no answer would make any difference?
I think people, this is gonna sound really rude. I think people who do think it will make a difference, are trying to figure out how to say this in like a not horrible way. People who would make it a big deal and like be like, "Oh, my life's ruined," or have it affect them to the point of like existential crisis. Probably we're already on that point and we're just looking for the thing to push them off the edge.
Hmm.
That makes sense, right? Like I think these people are crazy, or again, we're just looking for that one thing to give them an excuse to do whatever the hell they wanted to do, whether it's
Right.
good or bad, right?
Yeah.
And because like it's one of those situations, it's kind of like death. Like it's if it is a thing, there's nothing you can do about it, and you kind of just have to you just live with it. Like it's just one of those things that you just know about and you just accept and you just move on. Like, yeah, sure, we're in a simulation, but since that simulation is still our reality, like you still try to make, I guess, if you can make the best of it.
What? Yeah. Mhm.
Because
That
like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I mean, that's kinda like the root of the question that I was asking is, like, you know, do you think it would be valuable to know or not? I personally think it wouldn't make a difference,
No,
and I agree with you 100% when you are kinda saying, like, people who, you know, let it affect them, whether or not it is or is not the case that we live in a simulation. The people that do let it affect them to that degree were looking for something to, overreact about or use as a excuse.
Honestly, I think the only way it matters is if we find out that we live in a simulation and where dying as we know it means that we lost our ability to live in a simulation and the real world is like working to keep the simulation up. So not kind of like the Matrix where they take it and they feed the machines. No, when you lose your turn in the simulation, you go back to working to keep the machine working, to keep the cogs rolling, and like you have to. It's kind of like the Black Mirror episode where they ride the bikes to keep everybody the society functioning. So you go back to riding the bikes, and you have to earn amount of currency, whatever the currency is, to go back into the simulation, and that's new births. So that's the only way it would matter. Otherwise, like if we found out we live in a simulation, it doesn't change the fact that we knew already that you live and die, and your choices make you live or die. So if you're in a simulation, like you still people are still dying, they still longer are no longer in the simulation. So it doesn't you all of a sudden like, oh, I'm in a simulation, nothing matters. Like you still like nothing that happened previously to us finding out changed. People
Right.
still die and no longer exist. So simulation obviously isn't oh, you can die and come back. It's not like a video game simulation.
Right.
It's you get one life still. And so
Right.
like like Alex said, the only people it would matter to are the people who would treat it in a hysterical form. Where
Mm.
it's we're in a simulation, so it doesn't matter anymore. I'm gonna go do whatever the fuck I want and fuck society. I'm gonna kill you because you're a simulation, you're a sim, your life doesn't matter. That's the type of person that
Mm.
uh makes an issue. But we already have those people in our current view of the world. So I
Right,
honestly
without
don't.
having
Yeah. So if anything, I think it would create more psychotic and immoral people. But at the same time, maybe it creates more people who want to innovate and figure out more about the simulation. And so it
right,
leads to more technology or
drives more people, the
drives more
truth
people, or
would drive
maybe
people, yeah.
everybody just goes fuck it and doesn't do anything.
I do think, however, if we found out it was a simulation, it'd be a little bit more excusable for these hysterical people if we find out like it's not a random simulation. Like
Right.
if like everyone was given a predetermined like start and end, right? Like, oh, this is where you're going to be born. This is who you're born to. This is how everything's going to happen from like start to end, right? And
Mm.
I feel like then I guess it's a little bit more reasonable to be a little bit more hysterical about it because that means like all the bad things that happen in your life and all the good things were like predetermined, you know?
Mm.
Like no matter what, nothing you could have done changed that. So I feel like a lot more people, especially those down on their luck, would probably see it as like a bad thing and potentially lose their goddamn minds
I
because
mean,
they're like, I'm already going downhill. It's meant for me to always go downhill. Like there is no hope of like recovery. You know what I'm saying?
hmm.
I'm gonna be honest here. If it turns out that we live in this, you know who's gonna be the most pissed, and rightfully so, black people. Like,
Actually, yeah, you're right.
like,
You're
like,
right. Let's just be real. Like
it,
slavery being a thing, like whoever's running it was like, hey, you know, it'd be funny. Them darker ones, slaves.
Yeah, but that's I don't think that would be the concept though, right? The concept would be you have a like characteristic group of people that are in an area, and then you're gonna introduce someone who's not like. Looking at the bigger picture of how that interaction went and how, what happened, of course. Um, but I think that that would be, if the world was a simulation, that would probably be the data or the information that was being looked at
mhm.
versus, anything else.
And what and what's funny because this is gonna lead into future episodes. Just that this whole little section we talked about right now, like
Hmm.
that the simulation, like you said, if we were in a simulation, slavery would be an experiment to did to see how this turns out. Very similar to
Mm.
things we do now
Mhm.
as a people, the brown eyes, blue eyes experiment and the Stanford experiment, things that we'll talk about in our next episode. Uh, it would be very like I can't think of the word, but very like juxtaposition or poetic if it turns out that we're in a simulation and people are like, oh, why slavery? Why do we allow that? Why do we allow famine and 9/11 and all these things? It's it would come down to the same reason why we experiment on people or we experimented with this or that or is to see how a scenario would play out so we could perfect it in the future. Like
Yep.
they saw what happens when they introduced uh different colored skin on these subjects, see how it reacts to see what they could do in the future to change it. So who's to say that if we're in a simulation 100 years from now they don't introduce something new to see if
New
we've
life form?
learned.
Oh,
Yeah. Like aliens
weird.
come. Are they going to enslave the aliens like they did when we introduce different colors? Or are they going to have learned?
Yeah, be more open-minded in terms of yeah. Yeah. No, it makes total sense. That's kinda like and that kinda leads me to one of my kinda like closer questions I had for you
Mm-hmm.
guys. Kind of a hypothetical, if you will. And let's say we're living in base reality. Do you guys think that we as in base reality, may be responsible for creating something like a full-blown simulation theory, including artificial intelligence, things like that. Um, do you think that, the world houses or there is an availability for that much computing power?
Deja vu. Uh, ye- yeah, yeah, yeah. I think event. I don't think it'll be in our lifetime.
Right,
But I'm
right.
sure like maybe a meteor crashes and we're like, oh wow, look, a new source of power, and boom, there we go. That can convert. Honestly, like random shit like that could happen.
You don't think we're on the path of reaching compute I mean,
I
look at
don't
cell
think
phones. Look at
I
cell phones. I mean,
don't
they're
I
capable of
The
I
amount
what
of
don't
we
think
what we had that took up an entire, you know, 100 years ago is now been able to be compacted down all the way into something that can fit in your pocket and has, 100,000 times the computing power what that massive, first computer had.
I'm not saying like the efficiency isn't there. I just think like we're gonna get to a point where we think that's it, where it gets too hard to like make it better, right? And so when I said not in our lifetime, like
We'll need in
we're gonna get to the point where we hit the max in our lifetime, probably. Like, let's just be
mhm,
honest.
mhm.
But I think it's gonna take like another 50 to 100 years after we're gone for someone to crack that code to get to that next point and continue on. And I think after that, yes. But it's gonna take like technology is advancing scaredly fast, and eventually it's gonna come to a halt.
well, here's a question.
Go for it.
Kinda throw a wrench in the angle that you're taking.
Go for it, dog.
We do simulations already. We simulate a lot of things, and I'm talking we use supercomputers already to go over thousands and thousands and thousands of scenarios to make sure that things are proper when it comes to, building buildings, all kinds of things. Um, do you really think we're far off right now, even with how far we are advanced with artificial intelligence and things like that? You think we're far off from taking a bunch of, uh, you know, I can't say the word because my Echo Dot will go off. A bunch of those or a bunch of Google Assistants, taking them individually and putting them all in a room and letting them go?
Uh, I th- I believe there is an experiment like that on YouTube already.
Mhm.
Uh, I think I don't know. I it's so fucking hard. That's a good rebuttal. Because also the game Sims exist, which is literally just our life,
Mhm.
right?
A very,
Um,
very, very toned back, not as, you know, there's not as many finer details, but in a base level, right, that is
in
literally
in the realm, let's say we are because there's AI that you can evolve.
mhm,
Like you can do minor evolves after thousands of simulations. It will, learn things, right?
right.
If assuming that we're not ones and zeros and that we're organic, I think that a computer simulation compared to an organic one will I think organic simulations will have an infinite outcome or unlimited outcomes, while a computer simulation will have a finite outcome. Yeah, that's the words.
Finite.
If- Yeah, finite, right? So like I think it can come to the point where you can run simulations on any computer of whatever, and like it will eventually have to repeat something. But I feel like there's an unlimited amount of outcomes organic individuals can do. They can have similar things, right? But like
Mhm.
repeating is very
Well, isn't that what the whole concept of a simulation is, though? Is you're running it to encompass as many physical possible possibilities as there are.
Well,
That's why you simulate.
but like if you look at it, we can get through a computer simulation a million times before it repeats, right? In let's say an hour. But the human race has been through how long, and we have technically not repeated as a mass yet.
I mean, well, technically we have, right? They say history repeats itself.
Yeah, they do, but like what has been repeated?
Well, I mean, different people, same scenarios. I can't think of any right off the top of my
That's
dome.
that's the
We'll have to
thing
come
though,
back.
right?
We'll have to come back to another episode, but I can guarantee you, I can find
Like
a
there
couple
hasn't
of
been
different
two Hitlers
scenarios
yet.
where.
Yet.
Yeah, good catch there.
Uh
But yeah, no, I get you. Um, yeah, we're gonna have to cut out what 18 minutes of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
18 minutes.
No, it's
Uh,
like 5 minutes.
yeah, it was a little bit.
Well,
Now
there's
it's
the
almost
first
short.
original 8 minutes. Remember before
No,
we even
that's
started,
already
you're like,
cut. Already cut.
Yeah, here he cuts that. He cuts
oh,
that right away.
oh, plus 5 minutes
So
in between.
plus 7 now, but
Um, okay, yeah. Well,
I
thank
mean,
you guys for coming in. It's that sellout shout out uh moment time. Ding 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 ding. Check us out on sirbudai dot.
.com/merch
That's what it is.
or a shirt like the one Alec is wearing, or a hoodie like the one Xavier is wearing, or nothing like my screen.
thanks for the support, Randy.
Yeah, no problem.
Shout out to all the people that already realized you're in a simulation and run. They're on their way. Run now. Run.
Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. I just want to
silence
say
is actually perfect because it's like we all realize that it's real.
We were looking at we don't look at statistics very often here because one, we're this is the 7th episode, like we're still super young in the podcasting life. But looking at YouTube, Apple, and Podbean, we are at a combined about 200 views. Even if it all came from the same 200 person, same person who watched it 200 times, we appreciate you listening, watching, commenting, liking, whatever you're doing. We appreciate
I love you
it
so much, so much.
We never thought that we would have people listen to it. We honestly thought we would listen to it, maybe our parents and friends and close friends, and that was it. So thank you for listening. We appreciate it more than you ever know. We're just a bunch of middle-aged nerds.
Hold on, pause.
20s is middle in our family.
No. You're still middle aged. Like we are still in our 20s, all right? But we are losers.
30s is
I'll
middle.
accept that one. You're 35.
I'm 32.
But as we were saying before, check us out on the other channels and stuff. Thank you guys for listening. Please leave comments if you have anything that you want us to talk about, or if you want to give your input on something that we talked about. We'd love to have those conversations with everyone. And keep looking out for some new content coming out soon. We're definitely going to get some more gameplay videos up, some more of these, and kind of just explore and see what kind of catches everyone and ourselves the most, and keep having a good time.
So next week.
Can't wait. Thank you. I love you.